What is up, ladies and gentlemen? You already know what time it is. It is WrestleMania season. Royal Rumble has happened and is officially the kickstart to the road to WrestleMania. So big things happened. We saw a title change starting out. We also ended up seeing a great last man standing match. Then we saw the two Royal Rumble winners be decided. I'm excited and I can't wait to talk to you guys about it. I'm Kevin Jones, the Disciples of Wrestling, and let's go get started. So our first match of the night we saw for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. We saw the challengers of Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax go against Charlotte Flair and the Raw Women's Champion, Asuka. Now, this was a great match. The one thing I do like about the combination of these four is you can really tell their chemistry in the ring. You can really tell how much they have of experience compared to all the other females on the women's division. And it was a really, really nice match. It was a very evenly distributed match until about the end, where you saw the experience of Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax being a tag team really come to fruition as they were zeroing off Asuka and Charlotte Flair. And then, of course, Charlotte goes on her rampage as usual. She hits her beautiful moonsault outside of the ring. And then we see the interference start to occur with Ric Flair and Lacey Evans. Now, at first, it didn't really bother Flair. Of course, Lacey Evans gets on the apron. She knocks down Lacey Evans. Then, of course, Charlotte gets bridged up for the figure 8. Lacey Evans knocks her down off of that bridge. But somehow, some way, we still saw Charlotte Flair get a good amount of offense in. But what it came down to is Charlotte Flair ended up knocking down Lacey Evans again, to where Ric Flair ended up assisting up Lacey Evans, handing her something in her hand, where Charlotte Flair goes up for the figure 8 bridge again. And then, of course, Lacey Evans hits this women's right with the object in her hand, which leads to Nia Jax hitting her leg drop for the crowning of the new champions, being Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax getting back their championships. The second match of the night, we saw Drew McIntyre versus Bill Goldberg for the WWE Championship. I can literally tell you every move and count them on one hand that has happened in this match. Now, that's not saying it was a bad match. I thought it was actually a pretty decent match, especially with, of course, the age of Goldberg and how they dressed it around. It was actually fairly decent. We saw starting off, Drew McIntyre goes for the headbutt and goes straight to the spear. Now, the bell hadn't ring, so this was not even an officially started match. Going outside of the ring, we see Goldberg actually swing Drew McIntyre into the stairs, leading up to a spear to Drew McIntyre through the barricade. And then, of course, the referee is very much worried, wanting to call off the match, but we actually see Drew McIntyre get back in the ring and call for the bell. Then, of course, Goldberg goes for a spear, and Drew McIntyre counters it with a kick straight to the stomach. And then we see him hit his first Claymore, to where Goldberg kicks out. And, of course, we know the last person who is kicked out of the Claymore was Brock Lesnar at last year's WrestleMania. So Goldberg is up and he's ready. So he goes for his 2 spears. And then, of course, pins Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre kicks out. So that was the 3rd spear. So we're going to come up to where Goldberg ends up going for the jackhammer. And then he goes for the pinfall. And this is when I got worried. I really thought Drew was going to lose, but we see Drew McIntyre shock the world as he kicked out of the jackhammer, because he didn't just shock us, he also shocked Bill Goldberg. Goldberg was shook. He didn't know what to do, so he goes for what he knows best. He goes for another spear, to where Drew McIntyre gets out of the corner, to where he goes straight. Bill Goldberg's momentum goes straight into the turnbuckle. Then, of course, sets him up for another Claymore for Drew McIntyre's successful WWE title retention. Now, the next match we see is for the SmackDown Women's Championship. We saw Sasha Banks versus Carmella, of course, accompanied by her butler, Reggie. And, of course, the shenanigans never stop to Caesar Mace, because Reggie, of course, always gets involved. With this go-round, we see Sasha Banks pull out all the stops as she's just ready to roll. And of course, like I said in my predictions, she had way more momentum coming into this match than she did the last match. She had way more answers. And of course, the experience and the preparation from Sasha Banks is what ended up helping her out. Also, what ended up helping her out was the fact that Reggie got ejected. Yes, Reggie ended up getting thrown out by the referee, which sent Carmella into a panic. Of course, Carmella did get a good amount of offense in, and of course, it was in her favor for a little while. But what it came down to was the bank statement for Sasha Banks' women's title retention. So, next up is actually the first of the 2 Royal Rumble matches. We start off with the females Royal Rumble, where we saw, starting off, we saw Miss Bayley come in at number 1, and number 2 being the returning Naomi. Yes, we missed you, boo. Let's feel this glow. Let's get it. And this was nice starting off, but number 3 was Miss Bianca Belair, one of the odds-on favorites. We saw a lot of people end up getting involved. We saw some NXT people come out. Shotzi Blackheart, Miss Rhea Ripley, Miss Dakota Kai. NXT came to stake their claim in this match, and they did with Miss Rhea Ripley. And then we saw some returns. We saw Miss Jillian Hall, Miss Alicia Fox. We even saw some 24/7 championship shenanigans as R-Truth comes out after Alicia Fox. And of course, everyone's looking to come after that 24/7 championship. So he fights them off. Him and Alicia Fox fight off the 24/7 wannabes. And then, of course, we see Alicia Fox pins R-Truth in the middle of the Royal Rumble for the 24/7 championship. Yeah, she became 24/7 champion and then got eliminated from the Royal Rumble, where R-Truth ended up pinning her to become the 24/7 champion again. Yeah, all that happened in the Royal Rumble. But we had our final 4 be determined with number 30, Miss Natalya, number 14, Miss Rhea Ripley, number 3, Bianca Belair, and whatever number Charlotte Flair was. But this was great as we actually saw a showdown between Miss Charlotte Flair and Natalya, and eventually Natalya gets eliminated first. So our final 3 are now Charlotte, Bianca Belair, and Rhea Ripley. And if we don't remember, this is calling back to their great rivalry between all 3 of them back in NXT when Rhea Ripley was actually the champion after Charlotte Flair had won the Royal Rumble last year. And of course, Rhea was about to defend against Bianca Belair. So all of these 3 have animosity against each other, but Bianca and Rhea were smart enough to know, as the reigning Royal Rumble winner, hey, let's go ahead and attack Charlotte and get her out of the way first. And they did just that as they double teamed Charlotte, and any bit of feuding they had between them, they ended up using that against Charlotte, and they eliminate Charlotte, taking out that big juggernaut. So what it came down to was Miss Rhea Ripley and Miss Bianca Belair. Me personally, you already know what it was. I was rooting for Rhea, but I'm not mad. We saw Rhea ended up getting eliminated by Bianca Belair, and now Bianca Belair is going to WrestleMania to challenge for one of the women's championships as she wins the Royal Rumble. Next up, one of the best matches of the night, we saw Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens for the Universal Championship in a last man standing match. This was so entertaining from beginning to end. We saw them literally fight everywhere. It was so great. We see a great display of actually these 2 being dead even for the most part. We see high spots like, of course, Kevin Owens getting thrown off of the little crowd area where they have all the projectors. He was up about 3 levels. And then, of course, Roman Reigns ends up throwing him off of it into a set of tables. Then we go backstage where we end up seeing Kevin Owens get ran over by a golf cart, calling to the days of AEW when Sammy Guevara got ran over. But Kevin Owens went slam through it. He ended up looking like he was going to sit on Roman's lap and then falls over. Then, of course, we see Roman Reigns end up getting laid out on the tables where Kevin Owens does something extremely innovative. He raises up the blades of the forklift that had a pallet on it, and he does a swanton off of the forklift blades. That was really cool. And then, of course, we go back out where Roman Reigns ends up spearing KO through the Titantron area. And then, of course, Kevin Owens on 9. I came to the conclusion that was the end of the platform, and all Kevin Owens had to do was roll over, and he was standing again. But Kevin Owens actually looked like he was going to take the dub when he ended up handcuffing Roman Reigns through the bar where Roman couldn't even stand up. But what it came down to was, and when the ref hit the count of 9, Roman Reigns actually grabbed the referee and slammed through the referee right into the projector screen. And then this brought out Paul Heyman to unlock his handcuffs. And then as Kevin Owens goes up to attack Roman Reigns, we see Roman actually counter into the guillotine. And he just chokes him out. And then, of course, Roman wins with the 10 count because Kevin Owens was unresponsive. So we saw a successful retention of the Universal Championship from Roman Reigns. The main event was actually the men's Royal Rumble, where number 1 was the Rated R Superstar Edge against number 2, the Viper, the Apex Predator, Randy Orton. Where, of course, the hatred for these two is just astronomical as it starts off in the ring. And then we go to the ringside area, and these guys just let each other have it all up until the number 3, Mr. Sami Zayn, comes out, where we saw Randy Orton go to the ring first and then Edge. And then we start to see the team up of the heels against the face, because, of course, number 4 is Mr. Mustafa Ali representing Retribution. These 3 guys of Ali, Orton, and Zayn go straight after Edge until we get number 5 come out, Mr. Jeff Hardy, for the assistance. Now, we actually end up seeing a lot of lingering between Mr. Orton, as Mr. Orton actually gets hurt by Edge outside of the ring. And, of course, Orton gets brought to the back by all the trainers, as it's looking like he's not going to be able to finish the Royal Rumble match. But we ended up getting Edge lasting and being the Iron Man of the Royal Rumble, as he was number 1 and he lasted the entire Rumble. But we actually saw a lot of people come back as well. We saw a return from Carlito. Carlito looked in better shape now at his old age than he did when he was back in here and debuted in 2005. Yeah, the guy's huge. Then, of course, we saw Hurricane come out. He made his little return, yeah. But another return that made another big impact on this Royal Rumble was the Messiah. Seth Rollins came back later on in the Royal Rumble match. But we ended up seeing a final 6 where we saw Mr. Braun Strowman. We saw Seth Rollins. We saw Edge. Christian, the returning Christian. Yes, he was one of the guys. We saw Rey Mysterio. And we also saw, with Braun Strowman and Seth Rollins, I believe Randy Orton still was in the match and was not being counted. So, of course, what do we see? Rey's first. Rey was out first. He was definitely out first. And they came down to Edge and Christian versus Seth Rollins and Braun Strowman, where actually Braun Strowman gets eliminated by Edge and Christian, which was actually pretty cool to see. And then we see, as Strowman is getting eliminated by Edge and Christian, we see Seth Rollins actually eliminate Christian in the middle of that elimination. So it came down to Seth Rollins and Edge because Randy Orton is not back in the match yet. So we actually see Edge eliminate Seth Rollins. And as soon as this happens, we see Edge coming back behind Edge, and he hits Edge with the RKO. And as he goes to go throw out Edge of the ring, Edge has switched over the momentum and eliminates Randy Orton to become the Royal Rumble winner. And he is now the 4th person to win 2 Royal Rumbles. So, of course, that means he's going to WrestleMania and to the main event to challenge for either the Universal Championship or the WWE Championship. Alrighty, ladies and gents, that was the Royal Rumble recap. And it was a great show. Honestly, I hope I covered all the bases. I don't think I did, but it was a great show from start to finish. I really enjoyed it. I agree with whoever the winners of the Royal Rumble. I think this does set up WrestleMania in a nice way, and I'm actually excited to see where they're going with this, as I'm actually curious to see where they're going from the main event going down throughout the rest of the card. But until next time, you already know what time it is. If you guys like this video, don't be afraid to hit that like button, that thumbs up right there. If you guys want to be notified whenever more videos come out, hit that subscribe button and get the notification thingamabobber. Definitely also, if you really enjoy our product, definitely hit that share button and share us to your friends and let them know what you think of Disciples of Wrestling. But also, if you guys want to. Next up is our power rankings as I go over our top 10, my top 10 wrestlers of the week. And then next up after is the DW top 5 as Jordan gives you the top 5 matches of the week from him. But until next time, I'm Kevin Jones, the Disciples of Wrestling, and that was wrestling.